Hey everyone, it's Ryan at GPI. I've got a customer's truck on the dyno today. His name's Jeremiah Morgan. Really nice guy from a Hot Springs area, I believe. You know, it's a L83 20, I think it's a 17 truck. Let me look real quick. Yeah, 2017. You know, Z71 truck, GMC. It's got a BTR stage 2 L83 cam, so it's really mild. Headers, air intake, L86 intake manifold and throttle body. Your typical run-of-the-mill stuff that a lot of 5.3 guys do. It does also have flex fuel, and I'll be tuning it on flex as well. We street tuned this thing a while back. There were some scheduling conflicts. We didn't get to get it on the dyno that day. So our street tune with no wideband in the exhaust was super safe. I think about 23 range on timing, 23.5 timing. We made 362 at the wheels and 387 torque, but it was 11.2 air fuel. So I just pulled a chunk of fuel out. I didn't get the baseline pull on, obviously, sorry about that. But I made nothing but a fuel change. I didn't do any timing adjustments whatsoever. We're about to make a rip, and let's see what it does with some fuel out. My target, since it's a big heavy truck, it's warm, really hot and humid where we're at, I'm going to target about 12.6 to 12.8. Leave it a little conservative on the pump gas side, and from there E85 we'll squeeze on a little bit more, and we'll see what those gains are as well. So let's see what we've got here. I'm doing our dyno pulls in third gear, stock drive shaft, stock gearing, so we're not looking to blow the drive shaft out on the dyno, that's for sure. Let's get our log going here real quick. Converter locked, of course. There we go. I got in it too quick and she downshifted. Hold on just a second. Let me command third with the scanner here. Got a lot going on. All right, command third here. There we go. Air fuel looks like about 12.3, 12.4 range that time. Had a little bit of spark knock in the mid-range. I'll pull a little bit of timing out down there where the converter was really lugged down and loaded. I get some air going. 369.9, basically 370, and 395 torque. So definite solid gains for one revision with just fuel only. Getting pretty close. I'm going to take just a little bit more fuel out. I'm going to touch that timing up in the mid-range. $3,600 to 4,400 RPMs. It was a little sensitive on ignition advance there, so we're going to pull some out. Converter's locked. The engine's really loaded down hard there. At the point of highest cylinder pressures, you're going to need the least amount of ignition advance to make max power. The engine's going to be more sensitive to detonation around peak torque than it is anywhere else. Once you're past peak torque and you're out there at peak horsepower and beyond, timing can be higher than it is around peak torque. take just a little bit of fuel out of it from really 3,800 to 3,800 and up. I'll take 2.5% out. Try to get that up in the 12.6, 12.7, maybe even 12.8 range. And we'll go ahead and transfer this power enrichment table to our E85 table, so I have a pretty close starting point when we put the flex in there as well. So let's flash this in. This should have us really, really close and really clean on the 93. Roll this window up so we don't have some of that fan noise. Have to creep up on this stuff a little bit, guys. You know, oftentimes a lot of guys like, I want you to put it on kill, you know, really get aggressive with it. Well, it's not that we're not always aggressive. It's just that when you go from having that little safety margin with maybe a degree of timing left on the table, that degree that puts it right on the edge on an NA setup, that's not worth hardly any power. That's, you know, 3, 4, 6 horsepower or something, and you're right on the edge. And in a street driven application that has all the, you driving all the elements, the heat, the humidity, hills, you lug the engine down, that's a recipe for disaster, guys. So you can get pretty aggressive with stuff and have it dialed in pretty good without being negligent and having it crank so far up that it's on the edge of disaster. Let's see what we got here. All right. I was filling my GoPro. These things get hot pretty quick, especially when I don't have air blowing across them. So let's see. I've got my graph saved. We'll get it up in 3rd gear. Yeah, fuel low, I know. Trying to balance it and not run it out of fuel, but keep it really low so we have good ethanol content when we dump 10 gallons in it. Third gear. Oh, it was much cleaner on the timing. It barely had a little sprinkle of spark knock there. About 4,100. I'm going to take a degree out there and we should be good. Air fuel didn't lean out quite as much as I thought it would. We were about 12.62 though. We're definitely in a good range. We're not going to get super aggressive with it on 93. Like that alone, so I leaned it out 0.2 of a point and I put like a 1/2 degree of timing in it up top just to see what it wanted. And this thing was 23 up top, but it had 1.3 out because of the intake temp modifier, and it only picked up like 1/2 of a horsepower. So I'll probably take that 1/2 degree back out. We're maximized there. We're maximized on air fuel up there. It was bouncing in the 12.5 range up top, 12.56, you know, 12, kind of bouncing around a little bit. But you can see a 2.5% change in fuel and a 1/2 degree of timing was worth a whopping 1/2 horsepower. So you know it's basically done on 93. And the next thing is, you know, I've already talked to Jeremiah, and you know, the internet says that this should make around 400 horsepower on 93 and a little over 400 on E. Well, that doesn't always pan out to be true. Guys, do not get crushed or start chasing horsepower numbers. Dynos are good tuning tools, And that's just the extent of that. You know, don't get wrapped up on, oh, well, something's not right. My tune is trash because I don't make the power that was advertised. Well, advertised on what dyno? There's a lot of happy dynos out there on the internet. Horsepower sells parts, right? We see this a lot. So this tune-up is dialed in on 93, and that's all it's gonna make on our chassis dyno. The next thing is we're gonna do is gain, or measure the gains from the E85 as well. So we made 391.5 torque. The little bit of leaner fuel mix helped a couple foot-pounds of torque as well. Not very much. It's still in a safe range. I'm gonna knock a degree out in the mid-range where it still had a little spark knock, just like 1 point something degrees. I'm gonna knock a little bit out there, take that half out up top, leave the fuel alone, and I'm gonna let this thing continue to run a little bit while I stop the video, get the fuel level down. I'm gonna put the ethanol in it, run that in, get the blend up, and we'll start this video back up and we'll see what we can do on the corn. All right, guys, so we're back. We got the E85 put in, 10 gallons. That brought our ethanol content up to 51.8%, which will be completely fine for this truck, this setup. There's not really going to be any benefits of power from increased ethanol content beyond this point. If there are, they would be very minuscule. So this will get us, I think, where we need to be. Pretty well got the content stabilized. It may creep up a little bit after we make a pull and it, you know, gets that wide open throttle blast where it really moves some fuel volume. Sometimes they'll move a little bit, but it should be pretty close and remain very close to this. We're gonna go ahead and fire it up, run it up, and let's see what the first pull on E does. Clean pull. Air fuel has started out great. 12.7, 12.8 range. I think I'm gonna knock a couple percent out of that. Try to get that to the 13.0 range on E. First pull, we're up from 392 torque to 406. So we're up 14 torque already, and we're up from 370.3 or something like that, 370 and some change, to 380.6. So we're up 10 horsepower right off the rip, and about 14 foot-pounds, which is about what I expected. There's going to be a little bit left there. We'll see. The timing curve was pretty clean. We're going to put get our fuel dialed in first. And then once the fuel is really close to where I want it to be, I'll make a timing adjustment and we'll see what that yields us. So hang tight real quick and we will flash this update in there. ECM only, just a little fuel change. I'm gonna move about 2%. Should get us where we need to be. We'll go to our E85 power enriched table, and that was basically from about 3,800 and up. That's 0.025. There we go. And people often ask, you know, about making these pulls back to back. I like to do this because you're kind of tuning off of more of a real world scenario. You don't have the feature or the benefit of having a glory cool down pull every time you drive your car or your truck. I like tuning off of the worser conditions and dialing the tune up in on the worser conditions. That way when you go out and it is cooled down, the engine temps are a little lower, the intake air temps are a little lower, it's only going to make a little bit more power. You know, if we're just trying to see what the glory number is on the dyno, after we validate our tune up, we get it all dialed in and everything, what we'll do then is we'll let it sit for about 20 or 30 minutes if time allows, you know, with scheduling. We'll come back and we'll just make a good cool down pull, and then that glory number is what it is, you know. But we don't typically let it sit 20-30 minutes and let it completely cool all the way back down, because it's not how I want to tune it. I want to tune it for the worst environment and then know that it's going to be good in that, and it's only going to thrive more in good environment, good air. It's about 25.5 degrees of timing in the upper RPM, but the IET modifier was pulling some out. On E85, I don't get as crazy with the IET modifier as I do on pump gas. I use one of the multiplier tables. I keep it from being able to pull that much timing out as much as it does on pump gas, I'll put it like that. So I probably will go down there and dial that back a little bit. Pull 2 on E. Let's get it. That looked good. About 13.0 air fuel, high 12.9s, 13.0, about where I want to be fuel wise. Yeah, see, the fuel didn't make much difference. It was 380.8. Was probably a little warmer on this pull. The torque was pretty much about the same. Probably put one of that 2.5% back in, since it really wasn't worthwhile for the most part on any power. I'll probably actually leave it out. We're on E. We have a much wider range of safety margin on E, and we still could run this thing really on DI as lean as 13.1, 13.2, and we're not there yet, so I'll leave well enough alone there. Now we're going to make an ignition advance adjustment, and like I figured, our ethanol content did creep up 53.7 after a couple pulls. So let me see here. Let's see what we got. Alright, instead of adding more timing to the table, since it's pulling 2 degrees with the IET modifier, I'm going to temporarily set the alcohol composition modifier for the IET table to 0. And I'm going to see what that couple degrees of timing does for us on the E, and I'll know if it's really worthwhile. Then I will go back through and I'll reconfigure the 50% and the 80% alcohol modifier cells to maybe like a 30 or 40% IET modifier. You don't have to pull the IET as aggressively with the E85 as you do the pump gas. So that's the change I'm going to make on this round. Burn that in there real quick. We'll make another rip, and we should be really close to where we're going to be. If it's going to make any power with timing, it's definitely going to show us on this. And if we pick up peanuts on this, then we know we're pretty well about done. You know, customer was really wanting to see about 400 range. I just want to see a good, happy, clean tune-up, and I know it didn't pick up any with fuel. And if we don't pick up anything with timing here, it is what it is. This is all that the parts have to offer us for power on our chassis dyno. I'll get this graph saved where we can light this thing up and let it rip. Let's get it. Up a little spark knock on the initial hit that time with that additional timing in there. I think I'll probably have to pull a little bit of that out. Yeah, I mean, it picked up 1 horsepower. It went from 380.6, not even a whole horsepower on 2 degrees of timing, to 381.1. So there we go. The combo is pretty well done and dialed in. At this point, I need to put the IAT modifier back. I need to take about 1 degree out of the flex fuel modifier because it doesn't want all this timing, you know, on the E. This is just all this thing has to offer. And like I was explaining, let me cut this air on real quick. Hopefully it doesn't bother our video audio, but it's hot in here. You got to understand on ignition advance, the placement of the reluctor ring on the crankshaft has a lot to do with, is this ignition advance we see on the table? Let's say we want 25 degrees. Well, if we put a timing light on here, depending on where the reluctor position is on the crank exactly, all right, 25 degrees on the table may be 28 out here at the engine, or it may be 23. You don't know unless you check it. So you can't get hung up on arbitrary timing numbers on a data log, because that's just commanded timing. That doesn't mean that's what it is. But what we do know from a tuning perspective is when we dial in the timing and the fuel to known good numbers and we maximize our power output, then we know we pull back just a tad for safety and we know we're there. It doesn't matter what those numbers are, right? Because we know the tune-up is dialed in and refined. So there's my spiel on it. There's my opinion. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed going through a little bit of the tuning process on this little L83 on pump gas and E85, and drop us some comments, leave us some feedback. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.